Okay guys, wanted to do a video because of an experience I had this week. I had to get my truck inspected every year in December, and about 3 years ago I replaced this passenger door window because it shattered after apparently a little rock or pebble hit it from weed eating. And I found one in a local salvage yard, thankfully. And so I went about replacing it. I didn't make a video because that's the first time I had ever done that, but thankfully I was successful. The problem was that this was a tinted glass. Now, it was not a problem at the time, but as I said, I went this week to get my truck inspected. Never had a problem the previous 2 inspections. And I was informed that the film on the glass was too dark. Therefore, it was illegal and the truck was going to fail. So much to my surprise, I said, well, I've been coming to the same place to get the truck inspected for the last 2-3 years since that glass had been in there, and it had passed each time. So no comment. They didn't want to address that. So basically they said, well, you can take the film off and it'll pass. So that's exactly what I did. While the truck was sitting in the inspection bay, I pulled the film off with great difficulty, as you might imagine. And truck passed. I get back home, and of course I have all of the adhesive glue that is still on the window glass. Looked pretty bad. So I decided that I was going to see how difficult it was to get off, and my first thought was to take some, there are different name brands for this. It's basically commercial paint removers for touching up. The brand that I buy at the local Lowe's home improvement center is called Goof Off. So it's essentially something that will take off, permanent markers. It'll take off latex paint. It'll take off a variety of different substances. So I felt sure it'd take this adhesive off. So I took basically a worn-out cotton athletic sock and put the Goof Off on it and tried to rub the glue off. Well, I was having very little success with that. It was essentially dissolving the glue if you put enough on there, but then it was leaving a very, very thin film of the glue adhesive. So I was frustrated enough that I basically called it quits. And I went to YouTube and I saw what was available on YouTube as to how to get the film tinting adhesive off. So I checked about 3 or 4. All that I saw had different techniques, anywhere from warm water and soap solution you spray on there, and you take a razor and you basically scrape it off. Now, it was working for that guy. I could see it was coming right off in his video. I did not think that would work with this adhesive, because I took a razor as well and started trying to get it off, and it was just basically smearing the adhesive. So I didn't think that the water and the detergent would do that. Went to another video. They basically said, well, make sure it's warm outside, take your razor and start getting it off. Third video, I think, said, well, if it's not warm enough outside, use a hair dryer to heat up the window glass, and then take your razor and scrape it off. Alright, I took all that into account. Long story short, I also decided I was going to try lacquer thinner since the Goof Off didn't work. So I was all out of lacquer thinner. Went and purchased $18 gallon of lacquer thinner. And tried that, and it was essentially working the same way the Goof Off did. It was dissolving it, and I was having to put a lot of elbow grease in it, and it was still leaving a really, really thin layer. So I started with carpet knife and tried to get it out or get it off the window that way by scraping. And you scrape in a vertical direction. You don't want to do it diagonally, you don't want to do it horizontally, you want to do it in a vertical direction. So basically I went from about midpoint and scraped up, and from midpoint and scraped down. And I was getting it off. It was a very slow and tedious process. And so about halfway through I decided, well, hey, you know, there's got to be an easier, quicker way. So I remembered that I had this little scraping tool that I've used to get paint off of window panes. And I simply got that, turned the blade around, tightened it back down, and began to use this. This was the key. This was the key. It sped up the process considerably. You know, I could just take it and put force on it, and again go in a vertical direction up, vertical direction down, and I'd have to clean the blade off very frequently so as not to leave it on there and it spread the glue or the adhesive. But that's what ended up working, and so I was able to completely get the glue off, lowered the window a bit so I could get around the edges, and then when I got all the adhesive off using the razor, that was the key. None of those solvents really worked. So when I got all the adhesive off, I then took the lacquer thinner, and the goof off would work equally as well. I just saturated my cotton sock and cleaned the window off, and that got the rest of that adhesive off. I also used painter's tape to put along the edge here, so if any of the adhesive fell on it, and I could just clean it off very quickly. So I put about 4 strips of this, and that protected the door itself. So at least for the adhesive that was used on that window film, the only thing that worked was the razor. And again, I tried the carpet knife razor, doing it by hand. It was just a little bit too wide, and of course it was a slower process since you were having to make sure you didn't cut yourself. Since I had that paint scraper and razor, I used that, and you could apply more force at a different angle, and again that worked beautifully. So anything similar to this will work. The detergent and water solution was a total bust. That would not work at all. The goof off by itself didn't work at all. The lacquer thinner by itself didn't work at all. The only thing that worked, as I said, is this scraper. So take that for what it is worth. That was my experience, the only experience I've had with this. So I'm sure they use different adhesives. Some of them may be water-based, and if they're water-based adhesives, then you could probably get it off with that warm water and detergent solution. It was working for the guy on YouTube. So for that, it quickly became apparent that there was not a water-based adhesive. And given the difficulty with the lacquer thinner not working properly, nor the goof off or that paint remover, that was the only thing that worked. So just thought I'd share that with you, save you potentially some frustration in the event that you have to do the same thing. Just as a side note, I doubt that window was a problem as far as the tinting. I will say that the guy said, well, you know, sometimes sunlight over years darkens the tinting, and in this state, you know, and he showed me the measurement. 30 was the passing measurement. That window was at 14. I was standing there when he did it. So, yeah, what do I know? All I know is I had to get it off, and then I had to deal with the adhesive on the window glass. So for what that's worth, hope it helps. Talk to you later.